Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, is out in theaters, and first of all, I have to rant again about how I hate these titles that treat the audience like morons. It could have just been called Furiosa, but no, we have to add this stupid subtitle, a Mad Max Saga, that makes it clear what franchise it is. It's the same shit all over again as they did with the Knives Out series and most recently Force of Nature, The Dry 2. Just stop it already. Just let these films be titled the way they should be. Anyway, the film was written and directed by George Miller and stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. It's a direct prequel to the 2015 film Mad Max Fury Road, focusing on Furiosa, telling the story of her life since she was kidnapped as a little child from the lush green oasis that she was born in, through her grueling adventures navigating the wasteland, leading right into the moment Fury Road begins. So it covers about 15 years of time. Fairly epic in scope, also very long, the longest in the franchise at 2 hours 28 minutes long. Now, when this was first announced, I thought to myself, wow, what a terrible idea. I don't think a prequel will work. I think it will just never live up to Fury Road, which for my money is one of the best action movies of all time, and it'll be a waste of time. And what's more is George Miller revealed that after the very troubled, difficult production on Fury Road, he would allow himself to rely on CGI a bit more this time around instead of insisting on doing almost everything practically. And then the trailer was released, which did look kind of bad, even visually. So now that the film is out, I have to admit I was wrong with my expectations, and Furiosa ended up being an absolute banger film. I think it's a fantastic action picture. It's not quite at the same level as Fury Road, but almost. It comes close to my opinion. Crucially though, it's a very different film. I've seen a comment online actually from a person I know saying it was kind of more of the same. I've seen this before, and I can't disagree more. Furiosa and Fury Road are two very different films. The previous one was non-stop action set piece with just a few scenes here and there to take a breath and then keep going at an even higher speed. Furiosa is slower, it's more character driven, there's more dialogue and way more world building, with action scenes every now and again to punctuate what was built up and introduce another pivotal point in Furiosa's story. So the narrative dynamic is kind of the opposite of what it was in the last Mad Max. So maybe one thing I want to mention at this point is that going into the film I had three primary concerns. First one was, would it even look good? And the answer is yes, it absolutely does. Again, there are people online complaining about CGI, and I am here scratching my head because yes, there is CGI. Yes, it is visible in some scenes, and in individual ones it's quite bad, like the dogs chasing in circles after pre-Jack in that one scene. But it's still very much a movie with practical stunts and action at its core, only enhanced with CGI. I mean, looking at it and comparing it to, I don't know, Marvel, Star Wars, Jurassic World, Fast and Furious, any other modern blockbuster, this still has tons and tons more real stuff in it than they do. So I think it's an invalid complaint. I think it's disingenuous to look at a film like this, which has such an incredible production design, sets, costumes, hairstyles, props, and perhaps most prominently cars and other vehicles, and say, oh, it looks bad, it has bad CG. I think it's unfairly being compared to the insane standard set by Fury Road. And when you put them side by side, yes, it's not as great as that film was, but on its own, I think it still looks amazing. My second concern was the story. Would it feel shoehorned and just banking on the success of Fury Road? Again, the answer is no. Apparently Miller wrote this entire story before he started making Fury Road in order to create the world and inform the characters with their backstories. So it wasn't made after the fact. It already existed, and the filmmakers, the actors, etc., they were all aware of this stuff. We just didn't experience it. And as a result, it not only fits seamlessly with Fury Road, it enhances it by providing so much more context about the world and these places and these characters and the power dynamics in it. And I really think after having seen Furiosa, especially that iconic scene in Fury Road where she's screaming in anguish in the desert, will hit even harder. Finally, my third and final worry was Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she is a good actress, but I thought she doesn't fit. She couldn't compare to Charlize Theron as this hardened warrior, and I was ready to be disappointed by her casting. But she actually does a fairly good job. I think Miller cleverly builds these set pieces around her strengths and weaknesses. So she's not this bulky, powerful, hard-hitting woman. She's more scrawny, tiny, but she's very resourceful, clever, learns her lessons, becomes better, uses the environment and things in it to her advantage. And for a lot of the film, she has speaking about the physicality, she has her face or parts of it covered. So it's just her eyes doing the acting work. And of course, she has fantastic eyes for the job. And also, I have to say it was a really interesting choice, a very patient choice, that the film takes so much time establishing her early years, which means that Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't actually show up on screen after 1 hour in. Before that, it's the younger actress playing her, and she looks remarkably like Taylor-Joy. I thought that was just a coincidental lookalike, but I've read, and I haven't verified this, but I've read some comments online saying that Anya Taylor-Joy's face was digitally de-aged and then superimposed on the body of the young actress, so there was some CG fuckery with that, possibly, I don't know. Speaking about Anya Taylor-Joy, one more thing that I wanted to mention was the voice, because especially later in the film, as she sort of becomes Furiosa, there were a couple of scenes where I thought to myself, that sounded like Charlize Theron. Was that her voice? But then no, they show Taylor-Joy speaking, and it is her voice, but she comes remarkably close to the original. I also want to add that Chris Hemsworth is bloody fantastic as the Mantis, the main villain. He really hums it up in the best way possible, playing a deranged villain that believes himself to be a savior, but in reality he is incompetent and selfish and fails at what he aims to achieve. Great work from him, including the voice, which is so very different from his usual one. Yeah, what else is there to say? Cinematography and music were both great. I've seen this film in IMAX and believe it deserves to be seen on a large screen. Do yourself a service and go check it out. It's really impressive how George Miller at 79 years old can still make an action banger like this. And how he can make it both different from Fury Road and yet still perfectly fitting and enriching the established world. Very, very good movie.